Welcome to all those listening to the Insight Thru Experience Podcast, a podcast created for both the operators in OTC as well as operators in external units thinking about joining the organization. In these podcasts, we're going to be bringing you some highly successful operators, leaders, and training specialists who will be revealing their tools, tips, and techniques to help you achieve peak levels of performance. Now, sit back, take some notes, and use their experience as stepping stones for your personal success. And you are listening to the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. Welcome back to the Insight Thru Experience Podcast, everybody. It is good to be back, and I'm glad you have joined us for another week. I'm excited to bring you this one. We are interviewing Strength Coach Evan Krening. Evan has been with us for a few years, and he started out as an athletic trainer when he got here, and he's since moved over to the strength side, which I would argue is probably, you can tell he enjoys it a little bit more, but don't be confused. He was a great athletic trainer, and he can still insert that into his strength coaching as well, which makes him even more dominant when it comes to training guys for peak performance. In today's podcast, we're going to be covering the similar subjects of selection and OTC and get Evan's take on things like injuries, how best to prepare for selection, what a daily battle rhythm should look like during OTC on the human performance side, and a bunch of other topics and subjects that he will enlighten us with some masterful knowledge from a guy who's done it for a few years here now. So go ahead and sit back, take some notes, and enjoy this interview with Coach Evan. All right, we're live. Good morning, Evan.
Morning.
All right, Evan, if you would, give us a quick background about how you ended up here professionally.
So I'm from Colorado. Went to school there for undergrad, for athletic training, actually. After finishing that up, I went and I did an internship with Exos down in Phoenix to kind of get my kind of ground level strength and conditioning experience before I headed to grad school out in California, again for athletic training. Worked with the athletics program at San Jose State. After leaving there, started doing some more internships with strength and conditioning because I didn't really think athletic training was going to be for me. It's kind of a unique career, so...
Why do you say that? What's unique about it?
You have to really, really love it. And not that I didn't love it, but just you're working... Depending on what season it is, you're working 60, 80, 100-hour weeks all season long. You get, I worked volleyball, and from July to Thanksgiving, I think I had a half day off, maybe a day and a half. And so it's just pretty grueling because you're there an hour before the team, you're there an hour after the team, and you're on call all the time. So after that, I was like, all right, I want to kind of focus more on strength and conditioning. Started interning. I interned at Wake Forest. I interned at Wyoming, the University of Wyoming. And then I interned at University of Northern Colorado. While I was at Wake Forest University, the staff, the HP staff at the time from here had come over to just kind of observe, kind of an offsite thing. And the coach I was working with there, Coach Horgan, said, I think you should probably go talk to them.
Why did he look at you and say you should go talk to these guys?
I was the only intern there that was working for free with a master's degree and multiple certifications, and I think he was a guy who, if you busted your tail for him, he was going to take care of you, and so I think he saw that as an opportunity for me, and he's still been, a close contact and kind of mentor for me. So I continue to stay in touch with him, and he always wants to do what's best for you.
Describe the difference between a AT and a PT.
An athletic trainer is going to be more your acute care. They're the ones you see on the sideline running on the field whenever something goes down. A lot of times, especially like at your high schools, they're the only one there. So like, there's no strength coach, there's no outside PT, maybe there's a doctor on standby, but usually they're there to be the first responder. They're assessing, treating, rehabbing, preventing to some extent through whatever taping or bracing measures that may or may not work. A PT is going to be more your doctor level, way more in depth on the rehab side. They don't necessarily have the kind of that straight acute care that an athletic trainer would, but they dive way more deeper into the treatment and rehab side of things.
So going back to, you were working with athletes, and then you had the chance to come work with military, not just military, but SOF in general, Special Operations Forces. What drew you to that?
Somebody that never thought that they could maybe enlist and actually give back in that way. I thought this was a way that I could kind of do my part.
I've thought about this a lot, and the question, I guess, that comes up is, what's the difference as you start programming for a tactical athlete, or if that was a football player sitting in there that you're programming for? What's the main difference?
The biggest difference is when you're taught like basic programming, you're always looking at their seasons, right? So you're training to peak them preseason going into football season or whatever. So you can just work backwards from there. You know how many months you have. You know how many days you have. When you get here, it's a season that's all year long for ever. And so you have to be cognizant of their training kind of cycle and know, when they're going to be a little more stressed, when they're going to be able to train a little harder and push themselves. Maybe there's times where they're just going to have to maintain. And sometimes you can maybe say you're likening it to a professional model where you're just, okay, they made it here. We know that they're, at the top of their game, but we got to make sure they don't break.
Yeah, and each guy's, you don't really have them corralled like you would a football team, I would guess, either. So you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with preferences, and you're having to balance all that to make them ready to perform maybe tomorrow.
And even if you get something kind of going with a guy, you could be like, all right, I'm here for 2 weeks and then I'm gone for 2 months. Okay, let's get you moving the way you need to move so you understand what right feels like, and then when you're gone, we can communicate as best we can over, written communications and try and keep you going down the right path.
While we're here, what technology are you guys using now to help bridge that gap of them being gone a lot?
So our main thing right now is we're using a platform to deliver the programs to the guys. That was always kind of hard for us, working straight off Excel workout cards that you see in most weight rooms. This will let us send it to them wherever, and there's the ability for us to record movements so that they can see what the exercise is that we're talking about. We can put in cues and everything. Plus, their numbers get uploaded and sent back to us so we can track them from there. We're also using another system that they can implement daily wellness questionnaires so we can check in on them soreness-wise, injury-wise, sickness-wise. That feeds into PT as well, so they can keep track of any guys, and they're flagged whenever something kind of pops out as far as soreness or an injury, and we can kind of proactively attack that.
In a world that's traditionally closed-minded about maybe some digging into some wellness and adopting new technology to get better, and I'm talking about operators because I was one, and man, we're really hard to get on board some things. How has it been? Have you seen the progression?
I think we're getting there. It's another thing that they have to worry about, and they don't want to worry about anything they don't have to. But I think they've started to see the benefit, because if you just give them something, they're not going to do it. But if I give them something and I explain to them, and like, I'm going to be watching this so I can better take care of you, because that's the only reason I'm here. I think they can see that you're trying, and they're going to put a little bit more into it. Especially with the wellness stuff, it's not like this isn't us keeping you from doing your job. It's us making sure you continue to do your job.
Yeah, exactly. We've been pushing that message of it used to be don't go see them because they're going to get you off status too. Now, if you don't go see them, you're probably going to be off status because you didn't go see them. Looking at selection, and let's focus in on it a little bit. So since you've been here, man, I know you've been a part of a lot of them. What are some of the things you start noticing about the candidates over the last few years that stand out in your mind?
Because I've been on both because I started out as an athletic trainer here before moving over to strength, I've been able to do a lot of our orthopedic screening, and so I've seen kind of both sides. I feel those screens don't take us as long, because we're not having to go through mounds and mounds of injuries on guys. I feel like it's getting better. Every guy's gonna have something that happens. It's just what happens with the job. But we're not dealing with years and years of compounding injuries that they've never had looked at or never worked on. And you have all the chronic stuff from not doing, like I said, any kind of corrective exercise that's specific to them, or at least specific to the population. Now guys understand, basic mobility, stability, things that they can all be doing. Seems like we're getting a little bit more of an athletic population too.
For guys who are going to come up to selection, like we've got a whole crop coming in October, and possibly by next year we may be running 3 or 4 selections a year, just not 2. What are some of those things that you could offer to the guys prepping to come up here that would serve them well as they're going through the process?
I think, one, consulting your HP staff. Like, I've met a majority of them, and I know they're all awesome. They all know what they're doing. We're all on the same page as far as wanting to take care of the dudes. Consult them. They'll be able to get you on the right track. Make sure you're using all of the pillars too available to you. Don't just hit up the strength coach and assume you're going to be good. If you have the ability to go talk to, we're lucky we have a sports psych, but any kind of nutrition, so you know how to fuel yourself during the process, PT, how to keep yourself going during it, and then obviously the strength coach is going to get you prepped physically, but being able to know that it's going to be hard, but being able to recover mentally and physically and get ready to go again is going to be huge.
So let me put this question, I'll pose it to you. So Evan's coming up to selection, and Evan knows everything about selection that all that knowledge you currently possess. What part of your body, or what parts of your body, are you focusing on if you're those candidates?
If I know everything?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be making sure my spine's in good shape. My core is where it needs to be as far as being able to brace. My grip is good to go. And, my aerobic base is solid. The other thing is just making sure you're able to go through all of those fundamental movement patterns, your squats, your hinges, everything else, as best you can without pain, because that's the derivative to every movement you're going to see. And if you can't do that effectively, either biomechanically or energy system wise, it's going to be a long, few days.
That's why I wanted to ask you the question, the expert, because a lot of guys, as they come up and you see them not performing very well physically, just a couple of scratches of the paint and you find out that they didn't use their strength coach or their HP assets. They thought they could program their own preparation, and it usually very rarely turns out well for them. So I think to the audience and guys who are coming up here, what Evan just said is critical. Don't take it on yourself. Get some experts involved and take the knowledge that he just gave you, because what he just told you is the secret to being physically prepared. Evan, like a lot of people hear a lot of things about the process, and grip is one of those things that a lot of guys would get aggravated with me after selection, say, why didn't somebody tell us to work on grip? How do you work on grip, and to what level do they need to be prepared?
I think it can be a daily thing that's just part of your workouts, making sure you're working your different kinds of grip, your pinch and your crush and everything else, both just for straight strength and for endurance, so load over time. If you just do that, I think you're covering most of what you need to do. Just make it a regular thing where it's just part of the workout. Still progressing, but just part of the workout.
Evan's coming to selection. It's the week before selection. What does your programming look? How do you tailor it, how do you tailor it for what's coming up, and how you taper it off as day one approaches?
So week out, definitely start tapering the volume. If I'm still loading heavier, that may be okay, but the volume is probably the biggest thing that we need to start dropping. You can still continue to work kind of that long, slow cardiac output stuff, just because that's going to help you recover. So that's staying in those heart rate zones, 120 to 150 is what I have guys at. That's going to help with recovery and sleep. So coming into this, sleep-wise, trying to bank as much sleep as you can, and then just starting to making sure I'm eating right coming in, I'm hydrating right coming in, so I set myself up for the best possible outcome physically.
See a lot of overuse injuries, especially around the knees. Anything from your experience that guys could work on to overcome some of that? I mean, we're gonna push them hard. There's no doubt, but it always seems like the guys who prepared correctly usually don't suffer a lot of those overuse injuries, and the guys who didn't are gonna. It's just gonna add to your suffering.
Super generically, probably ankle mobility and hip strength or stability. I could 80% accuracy probably say that it was one of those two. And I've seen some acute stuff, but yeah, it's mainly just if you're doing anything repetitively for hundreds of thousands, however many steps, and you're doing it inefficiently, or you get kind of micro trauma every step, then what do you think's going to happen when you're not recovered and not sleeping and just in a state of high sympathetic stress?
Evan's been out to a few X fields where he actually walks with us, and he assesses a candidate when they start having some pain in some place, a lot of times knees. But I don't want to put words in your mouth, Evan. Through those experiences, what are some of the injuries that you've witnessed? What level of severity were they, and were the candidates able to continue?
It's kind of been a variety. We've had some knee, actual structural issues, which some of that I'm not sure how it happened or when it happened, but we're we should probably pull this guy. But the Exfil is a perfect place for an athletic trainer, because as an athletic trainer, when somebody goes down on the field, especially maybe a star player, you go out there and the coach is next to you and the coach is standing, can they go or can't they? And it's you like, yeah, I'm cool with them pushing through, or no, they can't. And so this is the one place where an athletic trainer's pretty in their environment where, yeah, they rolled it. Yeah, I'll tape them. Yeah, they're good to go. If they are willing to go.
Moving over to OTC, give me your overall impression about the course from the time you've been here.
Most of OTC was my first exposure to anything. I was originally assigned to them as the athletic trainer, so I went on a lot of the trips, treated most mornings, and now I'm helping train them. I feel like the cadres help. As we progress, the cadres trusted us more and more, where it's less of a, where I would feel like a coach athletic trainer relationship, and more of a, partnership where they trust what we're saying, and they consult us a lot. So it's become more, we're just a part of it. They know what they need to get done, and that's what they're going to get through, but we're integrated as much as anybody is, which is pretty awesome.
Knowing what you know about what they go through in training, like right now they've been going for about a month, pretty hard on the body thus far. What are some of the keys to keeping those guys healthy?
I think going into it, you need to know that you're not going to come out of it as strong and, conditioned as you were going in, because you're not going to have time. It's too intensive. So accepting that and knowing, and just trying to get, your basic maintenance stuff in. If you can get in 3 days a week and hit your major lifts just to sustain, you're going to be okay. Maintaining that aerobic base, because that's going to help you recover. It's going to help you sleep, which is going to be huge. I feel that OTC is going to be a spot where you're going to get a lot of the overuse stuff, just because you're having to drill stuff so often. So knowing your body through working with the PTs and us, and just addressing all those dysfunctions daily in the hotel room or whatever, because you're going to have to grind it out to an extent.
Imagine Evan's going through OTC right now. Imagine that you're at the CQB phase that they're in, up at the training location where they're at. What does Evan's day look like from the time you wake up to prepare for training, and then after training's over, what's Evan doing? And maybe even what's Evan doing during training?
The mornings would probably be try and get in those core lifts quick, get out, maybe get in 20 minutes of aerobic stuff, get prepped, head to the site. Before we begin, try and get, like for me specifically, working on some shoulder stuff and upper back stuff before I throw kit on, because I know that's going to crush me. Start in on the day, maybe throughout the day, working with our sports psych, Ben, who's going to be up there and watching every run, and seeing what he can do to kind of help me focus, shift my attention where it needs to be, and down-regulate when I need to down-regulate. We finish up the day, head back, try and recover in the hotel room using whatever down-regulation methods, whether it's breathing or whatever, to help me get back in that parasympathetic state, so I can actually sleep, because these guys have a hard enough time sleeping as is. Now we're throwing a intensive course on them, so sleep so that the next day, mentally and physically, they're ready to go again.
Since Coach Curtis has kind of taken over the strength position for OTC, explain that relationship that you see with him and the green team operators. And I would classify it as successful because I think it's just John's personality that gets in there. But explain that from your vantage and why you think it is or is not successful.
John is very good at relating to guys. Guys trust him. Guys can be comfortable with him, which is good, especially with OTC, because guys can come up to John and tell them how they're actually feeling, and John's going to adjust on the fly. He's one of the better coaches that can make that adjustment quick. He's been doing this long enough that quote unquote art of coaching is just innate to him. So that we're not just, all right, this guy's, having troubles at home or sick or injured or whatever. I'm going to load him under a bar. He'll adjust, if it's completely taking him out of training for the day, if it's adjusting training for the day, or if it's just dudes needing to talk to him before, just to kind of unload before starting in on stuff. And maybe dude's not doing well, but we're just going to do an hour of arms today because that's what that guy needs to, kind of calm down and reset. He's going to do it.
Big buys never hurt. Big arms. Mm-hmm. I think what you're saying, and I hope that it resonates with the audience, that the trust that has been engendered now amongst guys like you and Curtis with the Det One leadership, with the cadre staff of, man, it's y'all's call on what the guy does today. There's no, this is the plan this week and you're going to do it no matter how you feel. But now it's a training regimen to where we're trying to make each guy the best version of himself. And if that means taking the day off so you can train harder, then that's what we're going to do. And everybody trusts y'all to make that decision. So ultimately, you guys, they are like the pro football team. Every resource we have is focused on making them the best that we can make them, helping them recover, helping their families, helping all of it so they can be the best when it's time to operate.
Yeah, and I said this a couple times in our staff meetings and stuff, but kind of the mantra I go by as far as coming into work every day. I feel like I need to come to work every day excited and a little nervous that what I do today could, potentially make a guy a second faster or able to move and get to cover quicker and, potentially save a life or not. So that's how much it means to me.
I like it. And we've had some beasts come through lately. What are some of the traits that you've seen in those guys that made them successful, do you think, from your vantage?
I think the guys that excel on our side are the guys, you have the guys that don't want to do what you give them, or the guys that want to do way more than you give them. But the guys that just stick to the plan and trust the process are the guys that get the strongest and go the furthest, at least in the gym, and staying off the treatment table. With kind of that overtraining mindset sometimes with guys where unless I'm puking and crawling out of the gym, I didn't work that day. Those guys don't necessarily excel and stay as healthy as the dudes that just stick to the plan, trust the plan, and when it comes time, you're going to be good to go without us worrying about you.
Are the guys who are doing too much and not following the plan, is there ever a correlation between them and you're like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me he's not doing well?
In the past, maybe we've had guys that maybe don't stick to the plan, and then you talk to cadre, and they're also the ones that are harder to teach or coach, because it's the same. We're coaching them, the cadre's coaching them. If you're not somebody that's coachable, it's gonna probably translate over to the training course itself too.
That's a great point. I hope everybody heard that's coming up to a future OTC, or either guys in OTC right now. If if you're not coachable, it's going to show up more than just an OTC training. It's gonna have reverberations at other places as well. All right, so I asked, do you agree or disagree with this statement? I don't think ST or RQS or either this unit specifically has a working out problem. I think we have a recovery problem.
Oh, yeah. And by the time you get here, it's compounded over years and years.
Yeah, and there's no off-ramp ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all have a tough job. Last question. What does Evan's normal day look like Monday through Friday here at the organization? Like, go through it. Time you get here? What time do you get up? What time do you get here? What are you doing? When do you go home?
I get up at about 3:15. Eat, get prepped, head in, get here about 4:15, 4:30. That's when I get the most of my programming done and any email stuff I need to get taken care of. Get my workout in before dudes start rolling in. It keeps getting earlier now. It's 5:36. Train guys till about 10. Then I start getting the injured guys coming in, so they can kind of be outside the normal chaos. Train them till about noon. Maybe get some conditioning in, and then try and finish out whatever programming stuff or put out any fires. And then head out about anywhere between 2:30 and 4:30, and then I eat and go to bed.
What is, when you leave this place, when are you most satisfied? What happened that day?
When I have guys, if I see a guy, if I see a guy, PRing or doing a movement where he's hurt, every time he's done this in the past, he just feels like crap and it hurts. But seeing a guy either PR on a lift or get a lift that feels good, like teaching a guy to clean, because you have so many people that have tried to do a clean before through CrossFit or whatever, and it's just kind of throwing the bar around, but like seeing them feel it and like you see it kind of click in them, like, oh, sweet, I did that. The other thing is guys that have gotten injured, especially the guys gotten injured like downrange, seeing them come in and progress and feel better, or see them kind of smiling and getting back to who they were pre-injury. That feels pretty good. I know I'm pretty biased for our guys, and like when things go well for them, like I feel proud. So
yeah, as well you should. All right, man, it was really good, informational for me, and I'm here every day, so I know it's going to be really informational. A lot of good tips for folks about thinking about coming up here, and even guys in OTC, just hearing Evan's experience come out in one place. I appreciate you being here, buddy.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Evan just dropping some knowledge on us today, and from a guy who's been here as long as I have and watched the entire evolution of all of these processes, just hearing it from an expert like Evan on how to prepare for selection, and he's looking from a different vantage point. He is outside the fish tank, kind of looking in and trying to give us the right answers. So some takeaways today for those planning to come up here. Like, if you come up unprepared physically, there's no excuse at that point, because Evan just gave you all the answers. And then if you're an OTC, figuring out how to prepare and do your daily battle rhythm so you can at least stay in the fight physically, he also gave those answers. So use those to your benefit, fight for your peak performance, and we will see you next week on the Insight Thru Experience Podcast.